What happens when you have a kleptomaniac, that guy? Let me describe the situation. I've seen many stories on this sub, and from the various RPG horror story readers on YouTube about kleptomaniac, murder hobo rogues, but I was lucky enough to have never dealt with them before. Be it because the groups I play with are generally really chill, or the fact that most of my friends don't play rogues, but I have never had "I stabbed the shopkeeper and steal all his valuables" happen to me before. Note the use of the word before, because after a one-shot, I did learn that in fact these types of players do exist. And yes, it is as awful as all those other stories led me to believe. For our cast, we have the DM, who was an experienced player but was DMing for the first time. I am playing a bard because other players were rather inexperienced and shy, so I figured I could make the charisma rolls and do the talking for the party. Also, we needed a healer. My friend is the barbarian, who is rather inexperienced with D&D, but heard stories from me and his friend the DM and wanted to try. They are playing a barbarian because they just want a simple class that they can do some cool stuff with. We had some random guy we found off the R Looking for Group Discord who played a half-elf pack of the Fiend Warlock. Pretty chill, and from what I've heard, DM and Barbarian still chat with them. Lastly, we have the problem player, another guy off of R Looking for Group, who is playing a thief rogue. So the story starts with the Barbarian inviting me to a one-shot that his friend was hosting. I didn't have much to do, so I decided I might as well join. I got on the server and met the DM, as well as Warlock, who had joined as DM was talking on Discord about DMing for the first time. They said they were still looking for a fourth player and would discuss schedules after the fact. I gave the DM my schedule and told him that I'd play whatever the party needed. A day later, DM finds Rogue, and we schedule a session for a Wednesday night. The DM asked us to make third level characters so we'd all have our subclasses. Barbarian made a Berserker Barbarian. Warlock made a Fiend Warlock. Rogue made a Thief Rogue. And I ultimately decided on a Lore Bard to help supplement the skills the party didn't have. The session comes and we all meet in a tavern. Okay, cliche, but it's the DM's first time. We all describe where our characters would be in the tavern. Barbarian is at the bar drinking, I'm on stage singing songs, the Warlock is in the corner gambling, and I rolled to sneak behind the bar. Why? The DM asks, but the Rogue had already rolled stealth. 22! I sneak behind the counter. Of course this guy has expertise in stealth, and a 17 in dexterity thanks to his race. We had made our characters with standard array. I start to politely object, voicing more for the DM's sake that you can't just announce that you roll something without the DM giving you the okay to do so. But immediately Rogue speaks up again. I want to steal the most expensive bottle of wine they have. DM tries to object, but Rogue's already rolled. 16! I can steal the wine! Of course, this guy has expertise in sleight of hand as well. I can tell that the DM, at least being experienced as a player, isn't having this, as he speaks up. Well, you try to steal the wine in the middle of the crowded bar, full of people, and you realize that trying to reach the top shelf of bottles in an area surrounded by people isn't exactly hard to spot. Someone points you out to the barkeeper, who grabs you and asks what you are doing. Barbarian tries to play this off by joking about, clearly he's trying to pour everyone around. But Rogue was screaming in the chat about, I rolled a 16! How did anyone see me? That's stupid! As much as I already started to get wary of Rogue, I didn't want the DM's one-shot to immediately fall apart, so I decided to butt in to defuse the situation with my charisma. Warlock, seeing as the rest of the party was seemingly starting to meet up, also joined in to ask what the fuss was about. The three of us tried our best to reason with the barkeeper in character to let the Rogue off easy, but the whole time Rogue was arguing out of character about how I'm playing thief. Why am I not allowed to steal things? DM eventually got sick of all of this and told us all that, while you're arguing, you hear a loud boom outside. And he even played an explosion sound effect through the Discord music bot. Good on him. Rogue continued to complain before Warlock said, dude, stop. As the DM described how we could see people running through the streets in a panic away from something. We all head out of the tavern, if only to get Rogue away from anything that wasn't nailed down, and we see a huge platoon of airships looming over the city. The DM describes how huge shadows loom overhead, and we could see goblins jumping off of rope ladders to attack the townsfolk below. This is pretty cool, I thought. DM then told us that we were the only ones capable of getting onto the airships to stop them. Again, a little railroady, but it was his first time. He told us that we each had 100 gold to try and buy things, and that shopkeepers would sell us things at pretty much any price we asked. Within reason, because of the commotion. The group started talking about what we could use. Some grappling hooks to try to pull ourselves onto the ships? Maybe some flaming arrows to set the ships on fire. After a lot of debate, and some input from the DM making quick homebrew items, we decided to spend most of our gold on grappling hook crossbows to shoot onto the ships and climb on. We figured that we need to go to the weapon shop to buy crossbows, and the general goods store to buy grappling hooks and rope. We go to the general goods store and ask for grappling hooks. The DM flat out gives them to us and tells us to subtract gold from our sheets. Then Rogue, who had thankfully been quiet up to this point, speaks up again. What else does the shopkeeper have? Well, there are some healing potions, a shield, a few spell scrolls. He lists, assuming that Rogue wanted a general idea of what he could buy. I jump over the counter and steal all of it. 15 acrobatics and 18 sleight of hand. The voice call immediately explodes. Warlock and I start screaming at the Rogue. We have gold. Why do you want to rob this person? We're trying to stop air pirates or whatever. Why are you trying to join in the looting? Now Rogue could have said something about us needing the supplies, or how he planned to pay them back later, or whatever, if he was smart. But no, instead Rogue immediately begins shouting back, my subclass is called Thief. Why am I not allowed to steal? I immediately explode, shouting back, Warlock is playing a fiend Warlock, so I guess that makes him a literal devil, right? Just because your subclass is called Thief, that doesn't mean you can steal everything you see. Rogue tries to object further, but the DM server mutes him. For the sake of the story, I'm going to say that you do somehow rob the shopkeeper, and that they somehow don't stop you, and that somehow there's no guards or anything nearby. But I'm telling you right now, that if you try to loot anything else, I'm kicking you from the server. Rogue was silent, even after they were unmuted. We head to the weapons store, and the DM describes how the shopkeeper is handing out whatever they can to people quickly searching for something to defend themselves, giving away their product at a massively discounted, I rolled to steal a rapier, 18 for stealth. Everyone, even Barbarian, who is generally a quiet person, starts yelling at the Rogue, screaming about how idiotic it is to rob a weapons store filled with people who are armed. The DM, true to his word and to his credit, proceeded to mute everyone and narrate. As the Rogue runs behind the counter to take a weapon they already have, the shopkeeper speaks up. Hey, you need to pay for that! As they try to run out of the store, a burly man, armed with a battle axe, hits the Rogue in the face, knocking them over. Before they can object, they're tied up and gagged by the store's patrons. And with that, you are banned from this server, and Rogue is promptly removed from the Discord call. The DM unmutes all of us, and we proceed to talk about what just happened. I detail how I thought people like that were made up, and Warlock jokes about, welcome to r/looking for group. Barbarians just generally upset that people wouldn't try to roleplay a sane person in a role-playing game. We look at the server's text chat to see a barrage of messages from Rogue before they were kicked.
What? I'm playing a thief! Stop punishing me for playing my character! You're a horrible DM! D&D is a game about doing whatever you want! You're just making it so your DM PCs fight all the players because you want to win! I rolled an 18 for stealth! They wouldn't have seen me! Horrible DM! Horrible DM! Horrible DM!
DM takes all these comments pretty well, but is still bummed out that what he meant to be a 4-player adventure is now down a player. I tell him that we'd probably still be okay if we were all level 4, and he reluctantly agrees, letting us quickly give ourselves an ability score increase before continuing the adventure. And we continued, and it was pretty awesome. We fought a bunch of goblins on the airship before fighting 2 bugbear bodyguards and a hobgoblin. When we beat the hobgoblin captain, we stopped the raid and were declared heroes. The DM asked us how it went, and the warlock jokingly commented,
"The boss fight with the kleptomaniac rogue was pretty fun,"
which got a laugh out of everyone. He asked us if we wanted to maybe do a full campaign, or at least some more one-shots, but I unfortunately had to decline due to my personal schedule. However, Warlock said he'd be willing to play, and Barbarian was obviously very eager to keep playing with some nice players. I'm just overall shocked at the near obsessive levels of kleptomania that the rogue had, and how mad he got when he was punished for his actions. I've seen some people play kleptomaniacs before, but they would always roleplay their compulsive stealing and try their best to have other players be around to stop them. And these players accepted that being caught was part of the fun of playing these characters. If you want a game where you can take everything right out from underneath someone's nose without any consequences, just play Skyrim and put buckets on people's heads. Don't play D&D and force a GM to do what a video game could do instead. I couldn't said it better myself. D&D is no video game. Actions have in-world consequences. Also, be careful with r/looking for group. Been getting quite a few horror stories because of it. What do you all think about this situation?